How many of you have heard about the deep bore tunnel? How many of you have not heard about the deep bore tunnel? You are very lucky people. How many of you wish that you could stop hearing about it? Because this should be a pretty simple issue. In 2001, the Nisqually earthquake structurally compromised the Alaskan Way Viaduct, and we knew that we needed some sort of connection, a freeway presumably, that would connect from the south end to the north end. If we don't build a tunnel, people are going to die. And so elected officials got together and they made a deal. The Port of Seattle was going to put in $300 million, and the City of Seattle was going to put in $930 million, and the state was going to put in $2.4 billion, and a tunnel was going to happen, and there was no way we would go back, and there was actually just a little problem with that, and that is that we hadn't quite figured out how to pay for it, and we hadn't studied it. So we still needed $400 million to come from tolling. And that would require, the first report showed us, charging about $4 one direction and $3.50 the other direction. And what that was going to do is affect the traffic volumes. The current Alaskan Way Viaduct carries about 110,000 vehicles a day. The tunnel would carry about 38,000 vehicles a day. In practice, what this means is that people are going to reach these southern portals for the deep bore tunnel as they come up Highway 99, and they're not going to take the tunnel because they don't want to pay the toll. They're going to take surface streets. What does it mean in practice? What it means is that we don't have a lot of through streets, especially in South Downtown. And these yellow dots represent the places that traffic is going to bottleneck. We're talking about 70,000 extra cars on the street. What's the plan? Seattle City Council member Tom Rasmussen says he has no penny and no plan, we'll figure it out. The Washington State Department of Transportation, they also don't have a penny and a plan. So we're in this position where we're saying, what sort of tunnel is this thing? We don't have a good, solid plan in place. And that first deal that we'd made with the 3 elected officials earlier, well, it turns out that the state had gone back on those plans. Governor Gregoire vetoed a vehicle excise tax that would make about $190 million available for metro buses. She also said, and the legislature said, that the state would make the city pay for any cost overruns. They can't really do that, but they say they won't pay for cost overruns. The support eroded. People wanted to vote. About 55% of people wanted to vote. Only 40% of people at this point are saying, let's go ahead with your tunnel because we don't have a solid plan in place. So an initiative was filed. These people, they wanted to rebuild the viaduct. First, they're starting with trying to stop the tunnel. A referendum was filed, and that also qualified for the ballot. And that second one, the referendum, is supported by people who want a surface street option. Problem is, there isn't enough support for a surface street option. There's not majority support for any option. But I want us to ask ourselves the question, do we actually need to rebuild a major urban freeway when we have one about half a mile away? Seoul, Korea tore theirs down. They built a park in the place and traffic got better. Portland, Oregon did the same thing. So did New York. So did San Francisco. A tunnel study in Seattle found that we can tear down the Alaskan Way Viaduct and we aren't going to see major delays. And it proves that we can do the same thing here and people aren't going to die on the waterfront. So where are we now? A judge made a preliminary ruling last week. Final ruling's coming on Friday. And it's probably going to find that voters can vote on some part of the deep bore tunnel. So this issue is going to be around most likely through the August election. But there's also something else very important. It's the final environmental impact statement. This is the paramount environmental study required by state and federal law. And we cannot legally make a decision until we have finished this thing. And the state law is quite clear that the environmental impact statement, it's a means of assessing a project. It is not simply justifying a decision that's been made. If you ask the state, the decision has been made. But that may not be legal, so we could be going back to court. So why won't people shut up about the deep bore tunnel? Because the deal we had was a deal that was broken. The data that we have don't support a tunnel, and there's no final decision. So as much as we want to be done with it, we can't even see the light at the end of this tunnel. Thank you.